Welcome to Oklahoma Gardening. Get ready for inspiration as we head over to Tulsa for the annual Tulsa Garden Club's garden tour. Today we're going to feature 4 of the 7 gardens that will be on this year's tour. It's a show full of garden inspiration that you won't want to miss. Underwriting assistance for our program is provided by the Oklahoma Department of Agriculture, Food, and Forestry, helping to keep Oklahoma green and growing. Oklahoma Gardening is also a proud partner with Shape Your Future, a program of the Tobacco Settlement Endowment Trust. Shape Your Future provides resources for Oklahomans to make the healthy choice the easy choice. For generations, Oklahoma Gardening has been welcomed into your homes. It's a place to learn, to grow, and be inspired. It's where Oklahoma State University bridges research, education, and passion. We share one goal: to serve the gardeners who inspire us. That's what makes Oklahoma Gardening true to Oklahoma and true to gardeners.
It's very calming for the nerves, I'll tell you that. If you have a hectic day, it's great to come out and work in the garden and plant things and see things grow and see birds and everything else. So I enjoy my garden. When we go to the front, you'll see the front garden, which is very southern, very layered, very formal. I have a side garden, which I call my rose garden, which is all roses. The backyard is a little bit of formal with the boxwoods and all that. And then behind it, I have iceberg roses, I have hydrangeas, I have peonies, and a lot of the larger plants are deciduous, which I kind of took from my grandmother and my mother.
Yeah, you got some of the kind of old school but really hardy plants with
They're very
bridal
hardy.
wreath spirea with forsythia.
Yeah, and then that's a burning bush, and of course,
The
oak leaf
oak leaf.
hydrangea.
Yeah, and I like your Boston ivy that you've got covered in different places too.
Yeah, I got ivy on the fence. I love the Boston ivy. And of course, these are daylilies and your creeping phlox. And these are Hillary holly that I really like. It kind of reminds you of a dwarf yopon.
It does, yeah.
But they're indestructible. In the front, I like to do evergreen. At first, the first layer is evergreen, and then the second layer is deciduous. So that way in the wintertime, I have something always green. So that I like to do that as my design theme. I love teak benches, and these are the Chippendale English ones, and they'll last for 40 years or more. So I really do like them a lot. The interior is very equestrian, very English. Almost all the furniture is English. A lot of equestrian prints of horses, and of course there's dogs, kind of Ralph Lauren looking, a lot of his fabrics and stuff like that. And I kind of like a lawn area, so I can, you can do bocce ball, you can play croquet, you can throw a football, whatever, and the dog has plenty of room. And you still have a nice garden on the edge.
Absolutely. So. It's just beautiful out here.
Of all the plants in the garden, I like all of them, but I believe my Katrina rose behind me is my favorite. It really shows up, and it's only 4 years old, so it's a great rose, has no thorns. It really does put on a great show. You can see here where I did the round boxwood balls and then the hedge. And then behind it, I have the knockout roses. And these are white ones. And then, of course, I do flowers in between to give a layered look. I come out in the morning, have my coffee, play with my dog, go pull weeds. It's very good to work out here. I enjoy it very much.
Just like anything in gardening, you follow the topography, you follow the light, you follow the situation you're in. You don't want to force yourself onto the place, but the opposite, you want to serve it in a way. And I've been gardening since I owned my first home in London, England in the 1990s. I realized gardening is the most incredible thing you can ever do, besides maybe having a family. And so I've been doing this for most of my life, really. Well, I come from a family of garden enthusiasts who take their garden and very seriously. So my parents had a garden that I now own in Austria that they built over decades in the 60s, 70s, 80s that really has influenced my gardening style. It's basically native plants that came from the woods, came from the fields. We found this lovely house in a lovely neighborhood here in Bixby, South Tulsa area. And the backyard was basically oak forest with English ivy. And that was it. And the garden was a forest, basically. And so I started taking this more seriously. When I started landscaping with Jane Fanning and bringing home plants from clients' rejects pretty much every night, I would come home at 6 or 7 at night with a trailer load full of plants that had to go in the ground. So that was sort of the bones. That was the beginning of this garden. This terrain here in Bixby, close to the river, is very sandy. And so that is one of the reasons why it makes sense to terrace a slope. And when I first tried just to put sod down, it would always wash down. So it made sense to start terracing it. And by that, of course, also creating different sort of spaces and different rooms in the garden. It was the beginning of something I didn't even imagine. Well, making rooms in the garden makes sense because you obviously have different areas in the garden, but you also want to define them as they offer themselves to you, maybe in a way. If you walk into a garden and you see everything at once, there's nothing to discover. I love a natural garden. I want people to feel abundance, to feel like it just has to be like that, it's natural. But at the same time, I like formality. I do like the old French and English gardens. So I researched for more than a year to find the right greenhouse, but also to figure out how to put it on a stem wall, which was traditional in Victorian times.
Yeah.
And I couldn't find anyone in the region who had this like this, or at least who I knew. And so I sort of slowly figured it out and found the old Coffeyville bricks.
Yeah, I love the Oklahoma bricks you put in.
Of course, of course.
Here you've created it as a destination to travel to. It's just beautiful.
You need a reason to go out in your yard. It's either you're gardening, you're working, or you want to go on a walk or go and see something. Yeah, I have a bunch of Hicks yews that are now 7 feet high that I love. They're like, even in the winter, there is the evergreens. It's like big old men, like giants that stand in the garden. And then I have a lot of boxwoods. None of my boxwoods are in a straight row, and it's partly because they all came in different sizes to start with, but it's also, I think, boxwoods in a straight row, almost any plant in a straight row, is really boring. It is really a matter of how you arrange them and how you place them and what you put with them. The more time I've spent here in Oklahoma, the more I've started diving into what actually grows here, what's naturalized and what is native here, and what works easily. Everybody who has irrigation knows how difficult it is to get the irrigation right, and then the irrigation breaks again and so on. So I realized, let's try and find things that just want to be here. And one of the many things that do is columbine. I want my plants to find their spots. Again, this is sort of a coexistence, I would say. My mom used to always say there should be room for every animal in her paradise. And I am trying to make my garden a space for people, for plants, and also for animals, because it is really, really important to have healthy ecosystems. On one side of the driveway is our daughter Viviana's space that she's called Springtime. So the name of the place is actually Springtime. And she plays there with her neighbor friends, and she builds stuff, and she cooks there with herbs. And again, I'm trying to make this a place that's beautiful, and I don't want people to destroy it, but I want the children to play here and to pick flowers and play with them and hide in the bushes and do their thing. Because it's not just about beautiful, it's about building a relationship with a place. I want to inspire my friends and my clients and people that see my garden to garden. I want people to realize how beautiful it is and how you don't have to be rich to have a nice garden. It just takes patience and dedication. And I think that's really an important thing, because gardening is a hobby that anybody could pick up. And it's, for many people who do it, it's more than a hobby, it's a passion.
I just think it's very peaceful. I have I'd say, kind of a more stressful job. And so it's a great place for me to come, and just being in nature is just very, feeds me. For me, I like putting different textures and colors together. I like watching how things change over time. I like that the garden looks totally different, even from yesterday to today, as a matter of fact. I became interested in gardening probably about 10 years ago, and have just slowly added flower beds and vegetable garden and transformed it to the space that I like being in. The garden bed looks complete if you have green, yellow, red, and blue. And so I've really embraced the yellow part of that. And it just makes me happy to see all of the bright yellows and chartreuses kind of popped around throughout the yard. It just kind of brings a nice ray of sunshine, I guess, to those spots, and brightens up a lot of the shady areas that I have. Outside of the chartreuse that I love, the type of plants I'm always drawn to, whether it be indoor plants or outdoor plants, is anything variegated, especially a creamy white and light green. Anything in that variegated really draws my eye, and I want to collect it in my garden. So I have a few plants that fall into that category that I just really adore, such as the ivory halo dogwood and variegated Solomon seal. And I have some variegated Japanese maples as well that I just really love. Yeah, so you can ring the bell and herald our entrance into the Japanese garden.
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
So tell me a little bit, you said that this was one for the moon gate,
Yes.
but also because you had sort of a problem over in this side of the
Right,
garden.
so this is kind of a low-lying part of the garden, and rain water would collect there. And so we put in a rain garden here to help with the drainage problem. And so the Japanese garden just kind of grew naturally out of that toward this way.
Absolutely.
I really wanted a moon gate. I just thought that was such a cool idea. So we added a moon gate and added in some bamboo fencing to sort of make it just a little bit of a separate, more peaceful place I could go and sit and listen to the waterfall that we added. I work in healthcare, and eating healthy vegetables is really part of what we teach our patients to do, so I try to embrace that. Initially, I had just raised like wooden garden beds, vegetable beds in the very, very back by the fence. It is the sunniest part of the yard, so I thought, well, that seems like the best place to put it. But it's pretty far away from the house, and so I didn't tend to it as much as I should, and it got overgrown, and the wood kind of broke down, and I kind of abandoned that project. And also now I'm a little bit older, and so I appreciate having higher beds that I don't have to bend over and weed or fight with the bunnies for the produce. So it's quite a bit closer to the kitchen. So my husband does all the cooking now, so he likes to come out, and I like to do the planting of the vegetables, and he likes to do the picking and harvesting of the herbs for dinner. The pollinator garden and the monarch way station are fairly new, and I've been adding more native plants to that to try to support the monarch population and pollinators in general.
It's definitely a relaxing oasis that you've created here.
Yeah, thanks. So this is the front garden area that started off as just an Andina hedge, and this is where I got my first taste of falling in love with all the different plants, and have a little seating area here and like to watch my birds take a bath or have a snack.
Well, it seems like the plant choices also will create a lot of interest year-round as well.
I try to do a mixture of bulbs and spring flowering shrubs, and then put in some annuals as the season goes on.
Right, right. And with the nice ground covers that you have between the ajuga and the chartreuse,
Gotta have my Papa Chartreuse.
You don't have to worry about too many weeds then that way.
No, they hide it very well. I think it's a good place to start with containers. And then you can play with different combinations of plants and colors and textures and see kind of what draws your eye and what makes you happy to look at. I still have lots of containers scattered throughout my gardens. I like the height that they provide and the ability to change things out or plant things out into the landscape that have overgrown the container, kind of reuse plants that way. I would say just pay attention to what colors you like and start shopping. Gardening is actually one of the known hobbies that is linked to longevity. And it's probably, some of it is physical, where it's an active hobby. You're hauling mulch, you're hauling soil, you're up and weeding and bending and getting up off the ground. So I love that about it because I'm really passionate about health and promoting health as part of my job as a physician. And I also think it also just incorporates hope. You have to wait for the next season. And you're also always learning, which has a lot of cognitive benefits. So originally the home had pretty basic, very narrow beds that we expanded just in front of the house. And then we expanded them a little bit more so I could get a little bit more depth. Then we added this walkway up to the street, which I think adds a lot of charm. And then I decided shade plants really they don't have that much pizzazz, they don't have much fun. They're not as much fun as sun plants. So I wanted to incorporate all of my full sun plants. So we expanded our gardens out front and poured a cute little pathway just so I could have more sun-friendly plants up there. And then this just kind of exploded back here in various stages over the past 5 years. We love our evergreens because that gives us year-round interest. And then we also just really love our hydrangeas. And so we've expanded our hydrangea hedge with a lot of incredibles and several standard hydrangeas. I really love ferns. I really love boxwoods. I do love Japanese maples. I mean, who wouldn't? They're just so beautiful. Sometimes if something's not doing well, I just move it somewhere else to see if it likes it there better. And then I also have learned the hard way to try to group plants together that either like to be dry or like to be wet. We spend a lot of time around the water feature, of course, and he would have it very heavy with like dragons and things like that. So I have to scale him, rein him in a little bit because I like my bird fountains and my bird bath.
The koi fish itself represents strength and perseverance. There's the great story of the koi that swims up the waterfall and then turns into the dragon. And it's built into the Japanese culture. It's been about a 3 or 4 year journey. Initially, I just got regular domestic fish, but then I started learning about it. And so this pond currently has 120 fish. There are 80 different color combinations of koi, and I have collected 50 of the unique color combinations, and I have duplicates of the ones I really like. Kohaku is the great one, the red and white. There's a Showa with a multicolored one. There's the Hai Utsuri, which is my favorite, the black and orange, which is pistol pink. Right? So I actually love that fish. I probably have a half dozen. The color is such a unique, lovely orange.
We find things to love about each other's favorite part of the garden.
She has set a high bar to catch up with.
And my husband, Frank, who loves koi, would love to be a resource for anyone because he's very passionate about that hobby.
Joining us next is Jane Crawford, who is the president of the Tulsa Garden Club. And Jane, you guys have knocked it out of the park yet again on this tour. It's just fabulous.
Oh, thank you.
So tell us a little bit about what this tour means to the Garden Club.
This tour is very important to us. It's our single biggest fundraiser of the year, and it allows us to fund really important groups, our empowerment groups. We have Up With Trees, New Leaf, and Global Gardens, amongst others.
Yeah, you guys are out in the community helping so many different other horticulture entities in that community also. Let's talk a little bit about the club also. It's open to anybody, correct?
It is open to anybody. We welcome anyone to come and attend. We meet October to June, with the exception of January, in the auditorium here at the Garden Center. And it's free to attend. And we, love for people to join us and learn.
Well, in addition to having fun activities like the tour and many other activities you do throughout the year or events, you also have educational programs each month, right?
We do. We have a speaker every month that brings us something new, and that alone is worth attending. We also do flower shows and horticulture shows, which is very beneficial to our members, and that's another way we try to educate the public.
I was going to say, and not only, sharing the information among each other, you guys are so proficient in so many different entities within horticulture, right? You have people that like roses and people that like irises and different things that you're all sharing that in a very social way.
Yes. The Garden Center hosts 16 different plant societies, and we'd like to do our best to work with those societies.
Absolutely.
Today we're going to be making a mixture of vegetables in the air fryer. And making a mixture like this works really well if you don't have enough of any one certain vegetable. For example, we're just going to use one yellow squash for this recipe. And you want to cut the yellow squash so that the size is similar to the other vegetables in your mixture. We'll also be adding some broccoli and cauliflower and carrots. I've only got one carrot here, and I cut the sizes kind of small because carrots take a little bit longer to cook than some of our other vegetables in this mix. And then we've got just a little bit of leftover red onion that I'm going to add. And with this vegetable mixture, it gives it a really nice color with this different vegetables that we've got in here. But feel free to add any other vegetables that you might have. I would just stay away from things like tomatoes or celery or lettuce, anything that's going to really wilt, because that won't cook well in the air fryer. Now, once we've got our mix in a bowl, we're going to add 1 to 2 tablespoons of olive oil. And then about half a teaspoon of some garlic powder. And then our salt and pepper to taste, but usually about a half of a teaspoon of salt and pepper. And then we'll just give that a little toss. We want to make sure that that olive oil coats the vegetables so that they'll get an evenly coated. And another option that you could, instead of adding the olive oil to the bowl, you could just use a sprayer like this, oil sprayer, and just spray over the top in your air fryer. But now with most air fryers, you want to preheat the air fryer for a couple of minutes before you add it to the air fryer. So I've already got this turned on, and I've got it set to 375 degrees, but we're just going to let it preheat for just a couple of minutes. Now that our air fryer is preheated, now we can go ahead and add our vegetables. And you want to make sure to not overfill the air fryer. You want the vegetables to just be in a single layer at the bottom. If you have more vegetables, it's better to do multiple batches. So that we've got them added. Now we want to cook them at 375 degrees for 10 to 15 minutes. I'm going to set this for 13 minutes. Now that our vegetables are done, we can go ahead and take them out of our air fryer. And again, the amount of time, you want to cook them for about 10 to 15 minutes. It really depends how crispy you want your vegetables to turn out, like how your family likes them. But this mix is a great way to use up those extra vegetables and reduce food waste. I hope you give it a try. This is the mixed air fryer vegetables.
And as always, if you have any questions about today's show, please reach out to your local county OSU Extension office or feel free to leave us a comment on our social media. There are a lot of great horticulture activities this time of year. Be sure and consider some of these events in the weeks ahead. Join us next week as we take a look at various ways to incorporate gardens into the classroom, right here on Oklahoma Gardening. To find out more information about show topics as well as recipes, videos, articles, fact sheets, and other resources, including a directory of local extension offices, be sure to visit our website at oklahomagardening.okstate.edu. Join in on Facebook and Instagram. You can find this entire show and other recent shows as well as individual segments on our Oklahoma Gardening YouTube channel. Tune in to our OK Gardening Classics YouTube channel to watch segments from previous hosts. Oklahoma Gardening is produced by the Oklahoma Cooperative Extension Service as part of the Division of Agricultural Sciences and Natural Resources at Oklahoma State University. The Botanic Garden at OSU is home to our studio gardens, and we encourage you to come visit this beautiful Stillwater gem. We would like to thank our generous underwriters, the Oklahoma Department of Agriculture, Food, and Forestry, and Shape Your Future, a program of the Tobacco Settlement Endowment Trust. Additional support is also provided by the Tulsa Garden Club, Greenleaf Nursery and the Garden Debut Plants, the Tulsa Garden Center, the Oklahoma Horticultural Society, and the Tulsa Herb Society.